the reports come from? Did you get an initial?
One PodVader.
That's football.
Every angle of the NFL covered.
All that kind of stuff, I get it.
This,
no question about it,
is Next Fan Up.
We're going to unleash hell here in December.
Hello and welcome to the SuperFan Pro Bowl Preview Spectacular Special. I'm PodVader here with James, our Eagle Superfan. James, thanks for joining me on this spectacular preview of the Pro Bowl.
A lot of discussion about a game that ultimately won't be watched, but hey, why not have some fun with it anyway?
Let's get into that. Let's just start by saying the Pro Bowl is a BS game. Nobody watches the Pro Bowl anymore. It's really gone downhill. James, you sort of touched on it, the whole moving it to Florida and Orlando in particular versus being in Hawaii has really taken a shine off the game.
Yeah, and that coupled with the fact that it's the week before the Super Bowl. I mean, I get that you're trying to get people to watch the game who are at home, but I mean, a game in Florida a week before the Super Bowl, that week before the Super Bowl, no one really cares about football. It's kind of getting ready and building all the allure and the hype for the Super Bowl. No one wants to be, quote, distracted because they're not even being distracted by this game. It's an all-star game, and I get, compared to other leagues, I mean, actually, in comparison to other leagues, it's an all-star game that's pretty much fallen off a cliff. I mean, you look at baseball and basketball, those aren't even remotely competitive anymore either. And I get the players protecting themselves, but the pride aspect of this game, there used to be something about seeing the participants from the Super Bowl in the Pro Bowl that next week, talking about the experience, and those guys wanting to actually show out why they're there. And you actually having a lot of the guys who initially voted in playing in the game. As it is right now, I guarantee 50% of these rosters named will not play in this game due to losing the conference championship and being in the Super Bowl. I mean, it's just the way it is. Whoever the Final Four teams are, almost every single player on those squads will decline playing in the Pro Bowl.
Every year when the Pro Bowl comes up, a lot of podcasts, a lot of radio shows will start doing what can we do to improve the Pro Bowl? One idea that I don't think I've ever really heard, what if we played the Pro Bowl on running time? What if we didn't stop the clock except for the final 2 minutes of the game?
I guess, but then at the same time, why are they even playing in pads? Just put them in jerseys and shorts and put flags around their waist.
That might make it more interesting. What if we had a flag football tournament or an 11-on-11 tournament of some sort? Maybe that would be even more interesting.
Who knows? I mean, something. I mean, you might be onto something. 7-on-7, all division teams.
Yeah. Do a little tournament.
You have eight squads, rotating matchup year in and year out. The top two squads, even if they are from the same conference, will just play each other.
I think we might be onto something. The other problem here with the Pro Bowl is the new way of voting, because votes can be calculated now via Twitter, and depending on a team's business on Twitter can certainly improve your chances. Yes, Baltimore is pretty good this year. No, they don't deserve 12 Pro Bowlers.
No, they don't.
That is excessive. Pittsburgh, obviously a very large fan base. They don't deserve 5 Pro Bowlers on this team. They're 8 and
debatable.
They're 8 and 6.
But I'm guessing most of those guys are on the offensive and defensive lines.
Well, see,
which I can understand them.
See, the offensive line is actually, to me, even more of a problem for them to have so many Pro Bowlers, based on the fact that they are only 8 and 6.
Hey,
it's not like their running game and their passing and the lack of sacks have been that much better than anyone else in the league.
Hey, Pouncey and DeCastro on the offensive line, Hayward and Watt on the defensive front, and Minkah Fitzpatrick.
Yeah,
I can't really be overly mad at those 5.
To me, TJ Watt, Minkah Fitzpatrick, that's it. Maybe DeCastro. See, the problem with judging offensive lines, too, is it's extremely difficult for the common person to really judge who's playing best on the offensive line.
Name recognition sticks out more than anything.
Which is why I don't understand how Trent Brown, for the Oakland Raiders, made the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, look, when it came to the linemen and the defense, when I was looking at these, like I said, I could be very nitpicky-ish, but overall, I mean, you can make a case for some other guys who most likely will play because the guy's name won't be there.
Let's go through the AFC by position. The quarterbacks: Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson. The rule is always, if you think somebody got snubbed, well, who you're going to take off? And honestly, I don't think I could take off any of those three quarterbacks, even if there was a case for another quarterback in the AFC, which I don't think there is.
There isn't.
Here's where things are definitely a little bit more tricky. The wide receivers: Keenan Allen, Tyreek Hill, DeAndre Hopkins, Jarvis Landry. I think Hopkins is the only receiver out of the four that deserves his spot.
True. I'm not arguing that. I have no problem with Hopkins. The other guys, look, Keenan Allen just got 1,000 yards. Landry, first of all, I don't think anybody in a Browns uniform should be going to this game outside of Nick Chubb. And Tyreek Hill is going off name recognition. Now, if Tyreek Hill was going as a kick returner this year, I wouldn't have a problem with that. But I don't believe he should be going as a wide receiver.
No. He also missed how many? He missed, 4 games?
5 total, I believe.
5.
Now, a wide receiver I did say should probably be on the team, Cortland Sutton of the Denver Broncos.
He's had a pretty good year. You know who else? And I know I say this as a Patriots homer, but Julian Edelman has had a solid year catching the ball as well.
I'm not going to argue that.
He's the only option as well.
Hey, he is. I mean, I get. Trust me, he is the only option in your receiving core. That includes tight ends as well. But yeah, look, Keenan Allen's numbers, I feel like, are kind of low and yeah, he's leading. He's one of the leaders in yards as far as the AFC, this is what I found very interesting when I was pulling up stats for these wide receivers. You know, the top 5 receivers by yards in the league, all from the NFC?
That doesn't surprise me.
Ed's not even close, Pod. Hopkins is the leading yard getter in the AFC, but he's in like, what is it? 6, maybe 6th or 7th in the league. Yeah, it's baffling.
Running backs: Nick Chubb, Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram, and again, I don't know if I could take any running back off that list.
I would replace Ingram with Jacobs.
Interesting.
And Jacobs has missed a couple of games, and he still has more yards rushing than Mark Ingram.
Okay, that's a fair argument. The fullback
Patrick also has more touchdowns and higher yards to carry.
Fullback Patrick Ricard of Baltimore. I feel like this is a position, much like the offensive line, if we want to make changes to the Pro Bowl, that should not be voted on by the fans anymore.
I think he just went in because there's a fullback position that has to get named, and they have the best record in the conference.
Yep. I would 100% agree with that, because quite honestly, Patrick Ricard plays fullback. Yes, he plays fullback and defensive tackle, but he's in on fullback on how many plays per game?
Not that many, probably 10. Now,
only 2 times.
Conversely, I'd say that if neither of your fullbacks were hurt and they were actually active for the majority of the season, one of them would be here in his place.
Also true. And I still say the fullback position should not be voted on by the fans anymore. Tight ends: Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce. And I do believe this is, again, one of those where Mark Andrews is on the best team in the league. He made it because the tight ends are a big part of the reason why Baltimore has had such a great year. However, I think Darren Waller
I've seen that pop up a lot as well with Darren Waller. And, honestly, I can't make an argument, but hey, when your team has the best record, players who fans probably haven't heard of get rewarded. And this is the case. If Baltimore were, say, 10-6 and the Raiders had at least 9 or 10 wins right now, probably you'd see Waller over Andrews.
And listen, obviously, Baltimore Ravens Twitter did a great job in getting out that ballot and getting people to retweet it like crazy. As I mentioned, the offensive line, I really can't make any strong arguments against any offensive lineman. No. Tackles, Trent Brown, Ronnie Stanley, Laramie Tunsil. I know that there's been some question about Laramie Tunsil making the team. Guards, David DeCastro, Quentin Nelson, Marshall Yonda, and centers, Rodney Hudson and Marquise Pouncey.
So before we get to defense, already we've mentioned two names of players who started the season with the Miami Dolphins and are currently on the Pro Bowl roster. And I'm pretty sure there are more that I'm missing.
Who else?
Tunsil.
Oh, Tunsil
and Fitzpatrick now.
Minkah Fitzpatrick, who we'll get to in the defense. Yeah, you're right. It's very interesting. And the defensive ends for the AFC, Joey Bosa, the Los Angeles Chargers. Interesting. We'll just take a quick side note here that Nick Bosa also made the team. So brothers in both conferences make the team at the same position, which is also interesting. Calais Campbell and Frank Clark, the other two defensive ends in the AFC.
I've got no real glaring issue with any of those right now.
Nope, strong guys. If you were going to take one of the guys off, maybe Calais Campbell in Jacksonville. Jacksonville hasn't exactly been lighting it up. I know Campbell's been a strong player, but if you wanted to reward maybe another defensive end,
I believe he may be the only Jaguar going to the Pro Bowl, if I'm not mistaken.
You might be correct.
He is. He's the only one going.
Interior lineman Geno Atkins from Cincinnati, Cameron Hayward, Chris Jones of Kansas City. And I do believe this is one where Atkins gets in on name recognition.
Indeed, because he's probably the only Bengal going in this game. Likely. Yes, he is.
Outside linebackers, Matthew Judon, Von Miller, TJ Watt. And quite honestly, Von Miller might be here by name recognition.
He is. He missed several games this season, and his stats aren't up there with the league leaders as far as sacks like they normally are year in and year out. Not to mention, I hate this outside linebacker voting because players like Von Miller and TJ Watt play in a 3-4 where they're more edge rushers than they are outside linebackers. So you really only have, Matt Judon is the same thing. So basically, you have 6 pass rushers going on the AFC defense. Because all 6 of these guys, the defensive ends and these outside linebackers, they become down linemen on 3rd and long. If it's a killer cut passing down, Von Miller's got his hand on the ground and he's standing up outside of the tackle. Same with TJ Watt and Matt Judon. And even though Judon moves up and down the line of scrimmage as far as different positions, inside, outside, he's a pass rusher more than anything else. He is not a linebacker.
And listen,
in the traditional sense of the word.
I mentioned earlier the Patriots defense is probably one of the best defenses in the history of the NFL, certainly top 5 based on statistics. And
one member of the front 7.
And that's nobody there. The first defensive player I'm going to name is Dante Hightower at inside middle linebacker and Darius Leonard from Indianapolis. For the Patriots, we talk about those outside linebackers. I think Kyle Van Noy needs some recognition. Jamie Collins has been a spark plug for the Patriots defense for sure.
Collins, but not Van Noy.
Oh, Van Noy is a beast on defense. Here's the other thing is a lot of the things that Van Noy does aren't quantified by statistics that are on a paper.
And that's why he would never get voted in, because for the only positions where stats probably won't matter for you getting to the Pro Bowl is offensive line and defensive tackle. And Van Noy, as you mentioned, is a linebacker who does a lot of the dirty work to get that defense, going. Yeah, he makes stops on 3rd down. Whether it's tackle for loss or covering a backer out of the backfield, running with a tight end, blitzing occasionally. So he's not going to have the pretty numbers like, he's got 10, 12 sacks already in 10 games throughout the